Last year, the Chicago Bears consistently let Caleb Williams down. But in the Monday Night Football loss to the Minnesota Vikings, it was the first time Caleb Williams let the Chicago Bears down.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. On the show today, we have to recap what feels like yet another Chicago Bears collapse defeat to a division rival, a game with such high hopes and joy in the first half, all falling apart in the fourth quarter, and why it was very disappointing of a finish for Caleb Williams and felt like he might bear the most blame, but certainly not all of it. Certainly a lot of blame to go around. So we'll focus on the quarterback's performance first and then kind of look at everything else that went wrong that certainly didn't make his job easier, and yet we are one Caleb Williams throw differently away from the Bears winning this game and not losing it. Like ultimately, that's where most of that's ultimately the quarterback just has such an impact on the game that he stands squarely at the top of a long list of blame around this team. But we'll look at some of the good stuff as well, some things to be encouraged about moving forward. And that's true for Caleb Williams as well. It was certainly not all bad. He started 10 for 10. It was a lot of check downs and taking what the defense gave him, but in this first half, he was in rhythm, locked in, and it felt kind of like that second preseason game against the Buffalo Bills, where it was like, yeah, this is generally what it's supposed to look like from your quarterback. And it felt like everything we were hoping for and expecting in his first game running Ben Johnson's offense. But he never really found that rhythm again in the second half and missed enough throws, just not hitting open guys, like just missed them, that leave me feeling like the quarterback let the team down because the open receivers were there and he found the open receivers. And like for the last, what feels like almost decade of quarterback play in Chicago, so often the problem is like not being able to read the coverage correctly and not finding open receivers and not processing quickly enough where we never even get the opportunity to throw the ball to an open guy. But it feels like so much of this game felt like Ben Johnson gave Caleb Williams enough answers to the test and led the horse to water. And there were just too many times when he couldn't drink. When he's got, I think it was DJ Moore, wide open on that deep left throw right outside the end zone that probably would have been a touchdown and would have been the difference in the game. Or earlier, there's an open slant over the middle field that he just sails on DJ Moore. There were a handful of throws in this game that were not bad decisions, not struggling to find the open receiver, not no one's open on the play, just everything was essentially schemed up the way it was supposed to be. Everything was taught to Caleb Williams the way it was supposed to be. And all Ben Johnson needed him to do on those plays was make the accurate throw. Like that was supposed to be, in theory, the easiest part of the process. And in any one of those individual throws, you can point to, okay, offensive line pressure here or there, or, the defense doing some things to change things up visually here or there. Like you can always, any individual play, you can poke holes in it and find reasons as to why on that throw he missed. But ultimately, in year two of Caleb Williams' career as a number one overall pick, now in Ben Johnson's offense, like there just can't be excuses anymore. Like he had it's hard to say like a bad game. I mean, yeah, he had a bad game overall. I mean, that throw in the first half to Rome Odunze was beautiful. Like he made some great throws in this game, but overall, like he missed enough throws that he should make and could make up for it with the special plays that he did make in this game. And that's That's the most difficult part about this. Like, it was there for him to make the plays. And so often last season, nothing was there, and he found some way to make the plays. Like, it was spectacular the way he would create something out of nothing. But like here, they had created the something for him and got nothing on too many of those plays. Like, you can miss one or two throws here or there, but I haven't been able to like rewatch and go back and count, but it felt like 6 or 8. Like, that's too many. He finished 21 of 35 for 210 yards and a touchdown. It's not a bad stat line by any means. And it wasn't like some horrendous quarterback play. Like, the Bears lost by 3. Like, it was not like Caleb Williams was terrible all game and that's why they couldn't get anything going on offense. But I think Caleb Williams was the difference, the biggest difference between winning and losing this game, in spite of everything else that went so wrong for the Chicago Bears in this game. And we'll talk about the long list of the rest of the blame that can absolutely go around. This is not all on Caleb Williams' shoulders, but singularly, the player who had the most control over the outcome of this game was Caleb Williams, and he didn't do his job well enough, independent of everything else going on around him, that ultimately leads to him letting this team down. Now, the glass half full look at that is, in spite of everything else going wrong on this team, and we'll get into specifics, but things that happened on defense, the offensive line, the running game, special teams, like the Bears had a lot of different things go wrong, and still they were 3 points away from beating the Vikings. Like, they were close in this game, and that tells you, like, hey, maybe they're close to success, that if they can do all these things poorly and still almost beat the Vikings, then they clean up a few of those things they're doing poorly, and they should be in a pretty good position. And even from a Caleb Williams perspective, like the glass half full view on him missing these throws is like, he's missing the easy part. Like, that's the part that's easiest to clean up. It's kind of, in a lot of ways, the least concerning thing he could have done wrong in this game. Like, I don't remember very many, if any, just throws in this game that were bad decisions. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. There was never those like, holy crap, why did he throw it there? What is he thinking on that play? There weren't a lot of plays where, he's truly slow to read a progression. He's just standing in the pocket and takes the sack, right? Like, you could see his helmet going quickly, 1 to 2 to 3. And sure, there were times he probably held on to the ball too long. And there were times when he couldn't find an open receiver. And Troy Aikman and Joe Buck pointed out a number of times when, there's an open Rome Odunze or an open receiver somewhere on the play that he just doesn't end up getting the ball to and he checks it down instead. I'm not as worried about that because ultimately he was finding players to get the ball to. He was finding the open receiver on plays. He just couldn't hit him. And like, throwing the ball accurately should be the most fixable thing here. You don't have to speed up the processing. You don't have to change how he's reading defenses or progressions. You just got to set the feet and deliver the ball with good mechanics. And easier said than done when Brian Flores is blitzing you and your offensive line is having some problems, et cetera, et cetera. But like, also, number 1 overall pick, smart offensive play caller with a good game plan who put him in good positions to succeed. And he wasn't able to fully maximize those positions where he was able to succeed, despite everything else bad going on around him. So I am by no means panicking about Caleb Williams. I think everything that was going wrong with him in this game is fixable and improvable and should get better. And ultimately, he did enough good to give you a lot of that faith and confidence, too, that better play is coming. But for the first time this game, felt like he did a little bit more of the letting down than the rest of the team. Now, the rest of the team didn't hold up their end of the bargain either. If the rest of the team had been, average, they may have still won this game, despite Caleb Williams' mistake. So I want to go through some of the other long list of blames. I think defense probably comes next, giving up 27 points to J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings that couldn't get anything going in the first half. But we'll kind of shift some of the blame here where it's not all on Caleb, even if he has maybe the most control over it. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Supply House's real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast, Supply House has next-day delivery, and their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. So join their free Trade Master program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use our promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SHNFL5 at supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Locked On Bears is also brought to you by Gametime, the best way to get tickets for all of your favorite live events. The NFL season is back. There's nothing better than being in a stadium surrounded by the fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between online queues and login screens and prices jumping up at checkout. It's frustrating, but that's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. I've got the Gametime app on my phone. I've used it to go to Bears games. I've used it to go to baseball games, concerts, comedy shows, you name it. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. In just a couple of taps, you can find amazing deals to see your Bears in person at Soldier Field. If you had some FOMO watching the game on Monday Night Football, get there with the Gametime app. Download Gametime, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. So this was not all Caleb Williams' fault by any means. And sometimes focusing on him to start makes it feel like, oh, it's all his fault and he's the problem and nothing else is the problem. There were a lot of problems in this game. He was a part of that. But a lot more needs to be cleaned up than just, Caleb's got to hit some of those open throws. Like, if I just try and, put together a quick master list, off the top of my head, the defense really collapsing in the fourth quarter. 3 touchdowns. The Vikings, 21 points in the fourth quarter after holding them to 6 the whole first 3 quarters of the game. There was a collapse there where Kevin O'Connell adjusted to Dennis Allen, and Dennis Allen didn't have adjustments to the adjustments. And it felt like they didn't have as much juice or intensity or focus or energy in that fourth quarter. And that feels like coaching is part of that conversation. But also the offensive line struggled massively, was not nearly as improved as it needed to be. That reflected in another problem, a total lack of a running game. DeAndre Swift averaged just over 3 yards per carry. DJ Moore had under 3 yards per carry. Kyle Monangai never touched the ball. 17 rushes, 53 yards from DeAndre Swift. Not good enough. Then you add in Caleb Williams' missed throws are part of this list. Some of the second half adjustments maybe on offense, they need to adjust a little bit more. Also, I think one of the big factors in this game is just the defensive injuries eventually kind of caught up with them. At first, we were like, hey, no Jalen Johnson, no Kyler Gordon, no TJ Edwards. We thought this might be trouble. Defense looked great for the first 3 quarters. And it was like, wow, Noah Sewell was making some plays. Nashawn Wright has a massive pick 6. And it's like the backups that they threw in there because of the injuries stepped up and played well for a while. But eventually, it felt like that caught up to them over the course of the game. When you see Noah Sewell finally gets burned in coverage by Aaron Jones late on the touchdown pass that I think was the one that put the Vikings ahead, if I have my touchdown order correct. But one of the late touchdown passes, Noah Sewell's lack of speed and coverage finally bit them, and Kevin O'Connell finally found a way to get that matchup and take advantage of it. And we saw Nashawn Wright give up big catches to Justin Jefferson, and then Nashawn Wright leaves with an injury, and you've got Nick McLeod playing on the outside. He gives up some big catches late in this game. And all of a sudden, the problems they were able to mask in the first half, Kevin O'Connell unmasked. And some of that was just injuries and eventually that kind of catching up on them. Then we'll throw in special teams where it's like, okay, does special teams lose the Bears the game? No, but they made life a lot more difficult. Cairo Santos misses a field goal. You lose by 3 and you miss a field goal. That's the difference in the game, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that changes the flow of the game, and you can't just say you make that field goal, you tie, because there'll be a different outcome. But 3 points there is huge. Or you have a partially blocked punt of Cairo Santos, where it looked to me like it was Elijah Hicks blocking on the left side who allowed pressure up to his inside, and that guy was the guy who blocked the punt. So like punt, block, swings momentum, gives the Vikings short field, and they're able to build off of that. You had, generally speaking, fairly poor special teams like coverage. The Vikings had some long punt and kickoff returns that, weren't like 70-yard touchdowns, but it's just those hidden yards that make JJ McCarthy's life easier, where, the Vikings have like 70 fewer total yards than the Bears, and they run 15 fewer plays than the Bears, and yet they score more points because they had less yards to gain, because they got longer returns, because they had that blocked punt, and because they had that missed field goal. Like, it was all just little things like that. And then, of course, you could throw in the very last kickoff where they needed Cairo Santos to boot it out the back of the end zone. Ben Johnson said they were trying to boot it out the back of the end zone, and to none of our surprises, Cairo Santos' leg was not strong enough to boot it out the back of the end zone. And so it's like all those little things all collectively add up to contribute to the loss, to contribute to, and I didn't even mention the penalties in there. I'm surprised I somehow got through this whole list. That's why it's the danger of going off the top of my head. Penalties. The Bears had 12 penalties for 127 yards in this game. How many false starts did we see in the first half? Again, like taking Caleb Williams from a first down handoff that gets 1 yard, 2nd and 9, then you have a false start and become a 2nd and 14. Like, they were playing from behind the sticks so much with those kinds of self-inflicted penalties. And then you had, hands to the face on Dio Dengbo on a 2-point conversion that gave him another shot at it. You had defensive pass interference and defensive holding. Like, there were so many penalties across the board that also made life difficult. And it's like, holy crap, it feels like almost everything went wrong for the Chicago Bears in so many ways. And yet, they only lost by 3, and they were in control for most of this game. And so I find simultaneously a big concern by everything that went wrong, and also some silver lining of like so many things went wrong and they were still right there in this game. And so I think you can take an optimistic viewpoint of it and say, generally speaking, they're not going to do all of those things that bad every single week. Like, they're not going to have 12 penalties for 127 yards every single week. They might have penalty problems, and they may have 6 or 8 penalties next week. But like, that's half what we got in this game, right? If you give the Bears half of those penalty yards back, that could be the difference in a game like this, right? Like, the penalties are going to improve. They might not be solved, but like, not all these problems are going to be solved, but a number of them will just naturally improve. Like, Jalen Johnson is going to get healthier. TJ Edwards is going to get healthier. Kyler Gordon is going to get healthier. Like, that kind of thing will naturally improve there. Like, some of these things are just guaranteed to get better. And then you hope that quality coaching from a better coaching staff can help make some of the other things better, can help the offensive line block a little bit better. Because there's a real concern there. That to me, when I talk about like Caleb maybe deserves the most blame, but the most concerning thing from this game was Drew Dahlman played very poorly and Jonah Jackson played very poorly. I thought Tooney was fine. I thought Darnell Wright was fine. Braxton Jones got the job done, but your highly paid veteran free agent center got whipped in run blocking, which was supposed to be his strength, and the pocket collapsed a lot in pass protection. And Jonah Jackson was not the Pro Bowl Detroit Lions offensive lineman. He looked more like the Los Angeles Rams guard there. Like, it wasn't enough to totally derail the offense, but it was a problem in this game. And what concerns me about that is like, what's going to make that better next week? These are, what are they, 5, 6, 7, 8-year pros. These are not young players who are still getting better and still figuring it out. And oh shucks, next week they'll be able to correct that and get better. Like, these are veterans. Like, are they just going to magically play better next week than they did this week? I mean, maybe. They're allowed to have a bad game. I get that, but I don't know what it is that magically makes them play better in the future if they start out playing poorly. Like, this is as healthy as they're going to be. I guess more cohesion and more comfort in Ben Johnson's offense for Drew Dahlman, maybe. But like, some of this is just like bad technique and bad awareness in some of those situations. And it's just like, what's going to make that magically get better in 7 days? That's the concern. The biggest like lingering concern for this game for me is like, the offensive line didn't feel nearly as fixed it was supposed to. And there doesn't feel like an immediate solution to correct that. Now, all that being said, there was still a lot of good to take from this game. I tried to sprinkle in some of the glass half full optimistic approach here, but I don't want this just to be, 28 minutes of complaining and moaning and worrying about everything wrong with this team. There was a lot of good stuff to build on too, and that can be easy to overlook when the game ends the way it did. But we'll look at some of the things the Bears can build on going into next week that can give you some confidence that, hey, like even though they lost week 1, season's not over, no time to panic. They just need to take some time, slow some things down, and get some things right. So we'll look at some of the good stuff next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for every week with a can't-miss offer, because right now new customers can bet just $5, and if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. So say you want to place a $5 bet on the Bears-Lions game next week. You get that $5 bet, right? The Bears are 4.5-point underdogs on the road right now on FanDuel Sportsbook. The money line for a Bears upset straight up would be plus 190 odds. And then the over-under is set at 47.5 points. $5 bet, you get it right. You're getting the winnings from your $5 bet plus $300 in bonus bets. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Even with 21 points in the fourth quarter, a collapse, a familiar feeling loss, a lot of good to build on this game. And certainly not all hope is lost here. And I mentioned it at the top, like Caleb Williams, that throw to Roma Dunze on that first drive up the sideline was brilliant. And Caleb Williams, in general, had some really, really strong pocket presence and sack avoidance in this game. His legs were a real weapon and a real problem for the Vikings. He should have been sacked a lot more than he was. And that was a very good, clean positive from him. Like, I didn't feel a lot of like unnecessary leaving the pocket early, even though it hasn't broken down yet. Like, I still got to go back through the All-22 film and really confirm some of those things. But like legs and feet were a big plus for Caleb Williams in this game. And he made some really nice throws in addition to some of the throws he missed in there. But like one of the other things I come away with is like this loss felt different than some of the previous, like last year's losses with the team, where like it felt like under Matt Eberflus, the Bears would be losing all game, and then they would be the ones who pull off the second half explosion, then make it a close game at the end, and then lose. But they never started this strong, or rarely, maybe once or twice, against the bad teams. But like down the stretch with under Eberflus, when they lost these games, it was a slow start and then a hot finish that they couldn't finish, like a hot second half they couldn't finish. But this game was very much not that, right? This game was in control and dominating for a few quarters. And the fact that they can do it for 3 quarters suggests that they're closer to doing it for 4 quarters than 0 quarters, right? Like last year, they could play well for 1 quarter at a time, and it was the 4th quarter. This year, so far, they played well for 3 quarters at a time and then didn't play well in the 4th quarter. That's 3 times as many quarters that they're playing well. Still a loss, still feels crummy, but that also does feel like progress. I think, in particular, the pass rush, at least for those first 3 quarters, overachieved or, certainly exceeded my low expectations. Dayo Odeyingbo looked pretty sharp out there. I think playing against a backup Minnesota Vikings left tackle was part of that. And I'm not ready to declare Dayo Odeyingbo some steal of free agency or anything just yet, but like he made some plays as a pass rusher. Tano Passanio made some plays as a pass rusher. Javon Dexter made some plays as a pass rusher. Like guys stepped up in that pass rush and made J.J. McCarthy uncomfortable. Dennis Allen did a really good job of scheming up coverages and fronts to disguise things and make it hard for J.J. McCarthy to read the defense and baited him into a pick 6. Like, that's good. That's good coaching for a lot of this game. Nashawn Wright had a pick 6. Like, it's easy to kind of overlook, like, out of those 24 points, 7 of those were on the defense. Like, the Bears offense scored 17. The defense gave up 27, but also scored 7 of their own. Like, there was some real good there. And really, that defense, they kept Justin Jefferson pretty well intact. They kept TJ Hawkinson pretty well intact. Generally speaking, they kept the Vikings offense pretty well under wraps. Justin Jefferson had 4 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. That should be winning defense in a vacuum against Justin Jefferson. Like, that's a winning Let me rephrase that. That kind of Justin Jefferson stat line is a losing stat line for the Vikings generally. TJ Hawkinson, 3 catches for 15 yards. That's a losing stat line for the Vikings. Aaron Jones, 8 rushes for 23 yards. That's a losing stat line for the Vikings. They won the game. It was not in this game, but in a vacuum, those reflect some good things on defense. Even J.J. McCarthy, for as hot as he was in the fourth quarter, he finished the game 13 of 20 for 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did not consistently carve up this Bears defense. Like, he was really good in the fourth quarter, but the fourth quarter he was 6 of 8 passing. It was for over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns, but he had 6 completions in the fourth quarter, and the Vikings scored 21 points. Like, to me, it was not like McCarthy made some nice throws there, but it was not like a thrashing by J.J. McCarthy. Like, ultimately, there was a lot to like about what this Bears defense did. Offensively, they did a good job of getting a bunch of different receivers involved. Right? This was not an offense that felt, oh, they're just going to DJ Moore over and over because that's all they know how to do, right? DJ Moore had 3 catches for 68 yards. Zacchaeus had 4 catches for 42 yards. Rome Odunze had 6 catches. Kmet had a brilliant, really difficult catch late in that game. Swift had 3 catches. Loveland had 2. Monungai had a catch. Even Luther Burden had a catch in there. I wasn't counting as I did that out loud, but that's 8 different receivers that the Bears completed, not just targeted, completed passes to in this game. So, like, we're seeing Ben Johnson's offense accomplish some of the things that we wanted it to accomplish. And I'll also point out, along the offensive line, Braxton Jones at left tackle wasn't really a problem. Like, I still got to go back through and rewatch it, but like when you're thinking about the things that were going wrong on the offensive line, left tackle wasn't top of that list. I mean, to me, it's hard to, like, center and right guard are 1 and 2 in whatever order. Probably center was probably worse than right guard, but that's just from watching it live on the TV copy. You know, like, if you had to power rank Bears offensive linemen from worst to best, like, worst was probably Dahlman or Jackson are tied for first, and then, you know, you work your way down from there. Like, Braxton Jones got a lot of help from tight ends and running backs and stuff and sliding protections, but, like, for as much as the concern we had about the left tackle position and how they'll hold up against Jonathan Grenard, it was not perfect by any means, and it wasn't flawless, perfect protection on Caleb Williams' blind side, but it didn't feel like a big problem. The problems were on the interior more than they were at tackle, and that feels like, I was going to say a win, but it feels like some silver lining there that we can be encouraged about. And then even just bigger picture, came out of this game without another devastating injury as far as we can tell. You know, DJ Moore got roughed up, but then came back in the game. Deshaun Wright had a non-contact lower leg injury, but then came back into the game. Like, those both felt like huge dodged bullets. And even Caleb was slow to get up after a play and stayed in the game. Like, we'll see. It's possible that those injuries could turn out to have some longer-term effects, but the fact that they stayed in the game suggested that it wasn't, like, catastrophic injuries there. And there weren't really any other, like, major players popped out for injuries there. So, like, they stayed, in theory, relatively healthy from where they started the game, and then should keep getting healthier as Edwards, Jalen Johnson, and Kyler Gordon also get back to full strength. So definitely some things to build upon. And worth noting too that, like, Brian Flores' defense should be probably the most complicated, aggressive defense the offense will play against all year. Like, all things considered, not a lot of defensive coordinators are going to test Caleb Williams the way that Flores is able to with the different things he throws at them. So in theory, at least from like a battle of wits standpoint, the defensive matchups should get easier. Not necessarily the one-on-one player matchups, but like the defensive coaching matchups and like quarterback reading a defense matchup should get easier from here. This was a big test, and they did not pass that big test, but the tests won't always be this hard. Starting next week against the Detroit Lions with a team that didn't look very good against the Green Bay Packers, so a bounce-back opportunity for both of these teams. We'll have all week to preview that matchup. We still got to go back through this Vikings matchup a little bit more here, but it's a short week turnaround for next Sunday's game, so that's why you got to make sure you're hitting that subscribe button for the Locked On Bears podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're looking for a second listen today, go get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast, where Tyler Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, and then Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. So find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Coming back tomorrow, make Locked On Bears your first listen once again for another opportunity to bear down.